very pleased because I am passionate about talking about what we do at my organization, which is MALDEF, the Mexican American Legal Defense and Educational Fund. And I'll tell you a little bit about the organization, and then I'm happy to talk a little bit about some of the issues that we're focusing on today. MALDEF was founded in San Antonio, Texas, as a born and bred and lived there most of my life Californian. I still like Texas, parts of it. San Antonio's like that. And we're proud to say that we were founded in San Antonio, Texas 43 years ago in 1968. Now we were founded by a group of community leaders from the Mexican American community, lawyers and others, who believed that there was a need for an organization to use the legal system in court to represent the interests of the Latino community. MALDEF was consciously modeled on the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, which, as I'm sure many of you are aware, was the organization of which Thurgood Marshall was a leader for many years, and that really led the fight that led to Brown versus Board of Education, the foundational 1954 decision that really began the end of the Jim Crow era in the South and changed really the constitutional and legal picture of the entire United States. So MALDEF was founded to be modeled on LDF for the Latino community. And its primary founder was a lawyer by the name of Pete Tijerina, who died a few years ago. But when Tijerina used to talk about why he founded the organization, he told a story about being a lawyer in South Texas in the 1960s, where there was a significant Mexican population, Mexican-American population. But he also knew from many years of practice that it was also the case that Mexican-Americans were not allowed to sit on juries. So he told about having a particular case representing a client who he believed had the right to a substantial recovery from a corporation. But he also realized that this Latina woman would not get the kind of recovery that he thought that she was entitled to if he could not get a jury that included someones from the Mexican-American community. So he went into court and he made an impassioned argument, which is what lawyers sometimes do, telling our young friends here. Made an impassioned argument, and the judge listened. And the judge said to him, come back in a few weeks, months, I don't remember what it was, but come back, and I will work with the jury commissioner and we'll solve this problem. As he told the story, he came back after the requisite amount of time, and they had managed to identify 2 potential Mexican-American jurors, one of whom it turns out was already deceased, obviously could not serve for that reason. The other potential juror that they had identified was not a citizen and could not serve on the jury for that reason. So as he told the story, he was forced, because of that failed effort, to settle his client's case for substantially less than he believed she was entitled to and would have received had she not been a Mexican-American woman. He says that experience is what inspired him to join together with others to found MALDEF. So we are now a national civil rights organization. When we were founded 43 years ago, you could fairly describe the Latino community in the United States as confined to the Southwest, Texas to California, with pockets in Chicago, New York, and South Florida. Here we are some 43 years later, and the 2010 census results this year have confirmed what we already knew. The Latino community, now the largest minority group in the country, representing 1 in 6 Americans, is a national population represented in significant numbers in every region and virtually every state in the country. So our challenge still is significant, in part because of concerns about that demographic change. There's been a bit of a backlash that has resulted in civil rights violations that we target every day. We do our work in 4 areas: education, employment, immigrants' rights, and voting rights. Right now, our biggest challenges, as those of you who watch television or read the headlines would understand, is confronting a set of anti-immigrant immigration restriction laws passed at the state and local level around the country. It began, this most recent wave, with Arizona's SB 1070 a year ago. There have now been 5 states who have replicated Arizona's law. Together I call them the dirty half dozen. We are concerned about the dirty half dozen. We are concerned about localities. There are cities and counties across the country that have attempted and in some cases enacted similar laws that would restrict the access of immigrants to services, restrict the civil rights of immigrants, and more broadly, Latinos, because too many of these laws invite racial profiling based on prevailing stereotypes about who are the undocumented. So that's a matter of great concern to us today. We are also very involved in redistricting. Every 10 years following the census, across the country, state by state and locality by locality, there is an obligation to redraw districts for representatives in Congress, state legislatures, city councils, county boards, school boards, and the opportunities to ensure that the Latino community is represented by having districts that permit the Latino community and its voters to make selections are great. The numbers tell us that there are great opportunities. Unfortunately, there's also great obstinacy by some of those who are in charge of drawing these lines to actually creating those opportunities. So traditionally, after every census, MALDEF has been greatly involved in advocating for, educating the community, and then in many cases filing litigation to ensure that districts are created that present the opportunity for Latino voters to select representatives of choice and send them to Congress and state legislature and be on city councils and county boards. So that's taking up a lot of our time as well. We are, as I mentioned, a national organization. Our headquarters is in Los Angeles, which is where I reside, although I sometimes think I reside on an airplane, various airplanes. But our headquarters is in Los Angeles. We still maintain an office where we were founded in San Antonio. We have an office in Chicago. We have had that office for 30 years. We have an office in Washington, D.C. We've had that office for as long. We have satellite offices in Atlanta and Sacramento. Obviously, the need goes well beyond that small network of offices and the relatively small staff. People ask, how many lawyers do I have? I have about 18 lawyers nationwide who are doing this work. A lot of what we do is smoke and mirrors, trying to convince people that we're a bigger organization with more ability, more resources than we have, and convince them, therefore, to avoid engaging in discrimination and violations of folks' rights in education, in employment, in immigrants' rights, and in voting rights. So that's basically what we do. I've headed the organization for 2 years, though I worked there for 12 years. Before that, in between, for about 4 years, I worked for Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa in Los Angeles. It was an experience from which I learned a great deal, but I can say I'm happy to be out of government again and on the outside and pounding on the door occasionally. So I'm very pleased to be here to talk more about the specifics of what we do, but I want to thank all of you for being here this morning and welcoming me at this terrific reference.